Hey everybody, Juan here. I wanted to record this short video to talk about a game that I've really been loving on lately. It's called Prowlers and Paragons Ultimate Edition by Lynn Pimentel and Sean Patrick Fannin. This game was recently kickstarted, been pretty successful, it funded. It almost made its first stretch goal. I'm confident that when the backer kit comes out that it will make some of the stretch goals. But it is a superhero game that is largely narrative in play, but it has some heavier weight. I don't know. It's a game that really fascinates me. And I love other superhero games that are more narrative and focused. Quite frankly, what I like about Prowlers and Paragons is that it is essentially a narrative game, but there is enough mechanical crunch to make those engineers and gearheads really happy. It works for me. I like the level of granularity that the game has with strength and super speed and all those other things. I mean, those things aren't necessary for some people, but for others, they're very necessary. There are other systems that I love and I am currently running that don't have the level of granularity that Prowlers and Paragons Ultimate Edition does, but at the same time, P&P still stays relatively light and narrative focused. So, have I said narrative enough? Anyway, just wanted to go over some of the basics. So, the characteristics in Prowlers and Paragons, there are three categories. You have abilities, there are agility, intellect, might, perception, toughness, and willpower. There are talents that are basically your aptitudes and skills. There's about 12 of those. And there's powers. And powers are, well, what they are. Superhuman powers, unusual powers. To modify those powers, you have pros, which add benefits to it, cons, which make the powers more expensive or less expensive. Then there are perks, which are basically like D&D feats, and flaws, which are weaknesses. Many games have a system of flaws. Those other games that have flaws in them, usually they get you more points to build your character with, but not in this game. As a matter of fact, in this game, if you have more than 3 flaws, you actually have to pay for the flaws because flaws generate the narrative currency in the game called resolve. And that's pretty much player control. The traits have different rank. The rank typically goes from 1 to 12 in a standard superhero campaign. 1 to 6 is your human levels, and 7 and above is superhuman levels. Of course, you can set your game at a lower level. You can set it at an 8 die cap or a 10 die cap, or you can set it all the way up to a super epic, iconic level of 24 dice. And what kind of dice am I talking about? I'm talking about D6s. This game is a dice pool system, uses only D6s, but here's the neat thing about this. So you roll a bunch of dice, but you're not adding up the totals. Instead, you're counting the even numbers. 2s, 4s, and 6s. 6s are special because 6s give you 2 successes. You add up your total number of successes, compare it to a threshold, or you compare it to the opponent's roll, and they have differing levels of success or failure. That's something I really love about any kind of system, is failure with some sort of benefit or success at a cost, partial success. Those things are fascinating. Those things really makes story happy. The game has 2 types of outcomes. One is a narrative control outcome, and one is a more traditional type of outcome. And it's based on the net successes. Either the opponent is going to narrate, or the actor is going to narrate. But if it's a partial success for the actor, the opponent gets to embellish a little bit. And if it's a partial failure, the opponent gets to narrate, but the actor gets to embellish. And here's the thing. Whoever does the embellishment cannot negate the actual result. And that's cool. Or there's a more traditional way of doing it, whereas the GM can narrate a complete failure or a failure with a silver lining. So you failed, but something went right for you, and so that little benefit can carry on to your next action or something. Then you have a partial success. You have a success with a complication, which I think is the most interesting type of result. The person gets what they want, but something else that happens. Out of the frying pan into the fire. It's pretty cool. And of course, you know, you have your full success where the person gets to fully narrate or whatever. So that's the basic system. The combat is abstracted. The ranges are abstracted. You have close range, anywhere within basically a single move. Distant range, which covers anything beyond close range, but not too far. And then there's extreme range, which is anything beyond distant range. They're abstracted, but those work. You can put a number on them if you want to. I think 50 feet for close range and 500 feet for distance range and 5,000 extreme range. In a lot of other traditional games, in combat, you get an action and you can move. You can elect to do multiple actions, but that'll cost you a die penalty on each action. That's actually, looks like it's lifted from Savage Worlds, which is another neat system. So I mentioned the narrative currency. There's the narrative currency in the game is, there's two narrative currencies. One's for the players and one's for the GM. The players get what's called resolve. The GM gets what's called adversity. For the most part, they earn them in similar ways. Resolve or adversity, you can spend to reroll all your dice or some of your dice. You can also spend resolve or adversity to add dice to your pool on a one-for-one basis. You can use resolve to make a narrative declaration, all that kind of fun stuff that you find in a lot of other narrative games that I love, and particularly some of them begin with the letter F and ends with 8. So that is the basic system. You know, there's some other little details about how the enemies work and the equipment section and vehicles and headquarters. All that other stuff is pretty neat, but it's not really necessary to really hop in and get to playing. It's a point-based system to create the characters. I should have mentioned that earlier, but I'm mentioning that now. It's pretty easy. For the most part, it's one-for-one cost for abilities and talents and powers and all that kind of stuff. So that's it. If I haven't said it before, I'll say it here. Prowlers and Paragons Ultimate Edition is quickly becoming one of my favorite superhero systems to play. I've only gotten to play it once or twice, but it reads really well. It seems to be the type of game that fits my play style, and I can't wait to play it some more and run it some more. Especially play it some more. I like to actually play a superhero game, but I have already talked about that in a previous video. So that's all I got, and until next time, see you later.